All right, music fans and truth seekers, culture warriors, people who care about stuff. I'm here. So that's all you need, right? Welcome, Harmless Dave, here on the Harmless Dave channel, talking about could be the end for Howard Stern. I'm smiling a little bit. I'm sorry, as I do what I do in real time for a few real people like you there, right there, and like me here. Don't forget, subscribe, and buy me a coffee. All right, that's and there's also YouTube memberships and PJ Rock super chats. And if you want to become a patron, I've got patrons. I post stuff every day for patrons to ponder. Now, I'm pondering this article from The Sun, the U.S. version of The Sun, which I guess is also a UK publication, tends to show up as you're checking your 8 items or 10 items or less when someone in front of you has 20 items. That's typically the way that works. And it's a tabloid. But the headline reads, "Bye bye, Bowie." Oh, that's awesome. The Howard Stern Show to be canceled after nearly 20 years on Sirius XM as $100 million contract is up later this year. $100 million for Howard Stern. I'm assuming that's a yearly contract. The king of all media's lucrative deal ends in late 2025. Now, some other outlets like Yahoo News are reporting that this isn't true, that this is fake news, and that people reporting this are jumping the gun. You know, it's weird because there is no truth anymore. There hasn't been for quite some time. And then there tends to be a battle for the bottom. Like, which wrong story can we promote and get it out there so more people consume that? And then that becomes the truth because a bunch of people now believe in that story. And that's what makes it true. Stern, who is 71 years old, has had a megabucks contract for decades at the subscription satellite radio provider, will likely cut some sort of deal for Sirius to keep his catalog upon his exit, according to sources. Now, they don't quote any sources here. So, again, it would be helpful if they let us know who they were getting this intel from. This has been 20 years, though. You know, I was never one of those people who looked up to Howard Stern. I grew up in New England, so we had amazing DJs all over the place. In Boston, you had Dale Dorman. Early on, you had Shadow Stevens. And so I was looking up to some really good, and they weren't DJs, they were announcers, all right? They were radio announcers who were playing music, but of course they're going to be labeled just a disc jockey. But the way they did things had nothing to do with shocking the audience. It was more about information and being really efficient. I always envied these guys who could go on there and say a couple of sentences before the post, which is the part of the song where the singing starts, and they would do it. It would just it was like a natural extension of who they were, and talking over outros and getting to the point quickly and not wasting a lot of energy. I mean, it was just it was an art form. And now because of computers and, you know, we could easily slice and dice what you have to say to keep it within 20 seconds and you don't have to worry about it. And we'll queue up the song for you at the right point. These guys knew exactly how much time each song had for an intro. So when a song had a great intro, you were really happy as a DJ. Now, Stern started that way, but then, you know, things went downhill. He did every salacious thing he could possibly do. He was known as America's first real shock jock, right? And after a while, you know what happens with the shock value? It tends to go away. Because what else is there? I mean, describing naked women to a radio audience. I mean, how much more can you do, right? But he went into all the details, and for some, it was an addiction. Like his show became a big deal. What, back in the early '90s, I would say. I think Howard Stern did movies. I didn't really follow his career all that closely, but I was always amazed by how popular he was, and how many people liked watching his show and or listening to it. And I didn't have any desire to listen to him. Just and back in those days, I wasn't really that concerned about the kind of stuff I was consuming. Garbage in, garbage out. With Stern, that's kind of what you were getting. It says here, but as far as him coming back to doing the show, there's no way they can keep paying him this salary, according to another source, which they don't name. I'll link to this article. Again, I'll try to remember to put it in the description so you can read it. I wish they had more sources named here so we could know if this is just a rumor. After you saw what happened with Stephen Colbert, it's like they just can't afford to keep him going, which I guess is another reason why they might want to cancel. I think the country has moved in a different direction, both with politics and with entertainment. I think we're kind of chilling out now. We're not really into this crazy over-the-top stuff like we used to. And Stern at 71, at what age do you think to yourself, maybe I can't be on the air describing a certain body part anymore from a certain person or whatever he used to do? I heard some things that were just like, wow. I guess the FCC didn't really care, which I know Sirius is, you have to pay for it. So you're paying for this stuff. If you want to hear it, you're going to have to pay for it. And people do. Sirius XM, they have a lot of good stuff on there. I have been an off and on subscriber. They did send me another letter in the mail, like $5 a month. And there are a couple of stations I like. And quite honestly, they're way better than most of what's going on in the media industrial complex, which sometimes I call terrestrial radio. But I don't know, folks. It says here, if Sirius isn't going to give Stern a good offer, I don't think it would have anything to do with his ratings, the source claimed. It's more likely everything to do with the political climate. See? Stern has been an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump. See, these guys, it's not because they're going after Trump necessarily, although I would say that's not a good idea these days. I would say that, and what's weird is Stern and Trump were buddies. They were hanging out together in the 90s. If you go back far enough, Stern and Trump, come on, man. They're going to the same parties. They're hanging out with the same people. So it's kind of bizarre that he decided to do that stuff, but he's got friends. His buddy is like Bruce Springsteen, right? And they don't like Trump. And I guess that's a strategy to bring in a big audience. Not so much. Doesn't work. And so it's financial and it's also political. And it might be that people are just tired of Stern's routine. He is a great interviewer. I will say that. Howard Stern, his interview with Paul McCartney, I thought was really well done. And again, I'm not a huge fan of Stern. If he would stick to doing those types of interviews, stay out of the political realm. That's what people say to me, by the way. Of course, I don't have the audience that Howard Stern has, so I have less to lose and more to gain by weighing in on certain topics. So anyway, folks, according to the U.S. version of The Sun magazine, which is a tabloid, and you might see this on your way out at the checkout stand. I don't know, but it says here that the Stern show is to be canceled. And this will be continued as we find out if this is true or not. I wouldn't be overly sad if this is the end of Howard Stern. I mean, he had a really good run, right? How many years was he in radio? I mean, got to be at least 50, I would assume. It might be longer than that because, I started my radio stuff when I was like 17 or 18 years old. And here I am, still kind of involved with something that's somewhat related. All right, people. Exciting video. Sorry again. I feel like I need to apologize sometimes for these, but this is what I do, and hopefully a few people out there enjoyed it. If not, full refund, right? Doesn't cost you anything. I know you might have to sit through some advertising, but if you do like the channel, like I said, there are ways to help out. I will link to the story from the Sun and also to buy me a coffee and Patreon and whatever else. There's this cool church I've been talking about. I'm going to link to that because it's addictive listening to this guy preach. So I'm going to put a link in so you can hear his preaching, and you might learn something about grace and yourself and your relationship with God. And those are really important things, way more important than worrying about if Howard Stern is canceled or not. But that's the video. God bless, and I'll see you soon.